Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is June 30th, 2025. And what I'd like to talk about today is healing. These wonderful bodies that we inhabit are designed, and the designing is continuing, and we're progressing. The body is designed to heal itself, provided you hold the correct attitudes. So to the extent that I have yet to adjust specific attitudes that are bothersome, then I still have some reflections of this in the physical body. Because the physical body is simply a reflection of our own thoughts. And this is why it's so valuable. If you don't have a copy by now, let me encourage you to get a copy of Permanent Healing. This is information gathered by Daniel Condren and the entire School of Metaphysics doing research into mind over the last 50 years. The part that relates to health in the physical body is listed in this book. And it really needs to be a coffee table book in every household. Because most people think things just happen to them. They don't know that they've got anything to do with it. This book helps you to begin to understand that. I say begin because it requires your experience in order to understand how these things take place. And I'm working on healing some things now that I don't yet know how to do. But I know I'll figure it out as I step toward it. I won't figure it out standing still, flat-footed, like the churches want to suggest, or religion. Let me just say it straight out. Religion is just an excuse not to pay attention. And it is in paying attention, the key word being pay, like in the effort put out to understand is the catalyst that causes the understanding. And the understanding comes through the association with your own soul, who tells you in dreams every night how you're doing. It's coded in language of mind. You got to learn the language to understand the dreams, but it's there. But if you pass it off as just fantasies or frivolousness, then you're missing the boat. And we're all in the same boat here. So healing is, well, first of all, get you a copy of Permanent Healing. And when you first get the book, read all the way through it. And as you're reading through it, keep a sheet of paper by the side, and every time you read something that you think may apply to you, write it down. And when I first started doing this, by the time I got through the book, I had a couple of pages of listing things. So that's the beginning. And then you can, with a little further study, you can incorporate some of these because a specific attitude can cause problems in more than one area of the physical body. And again, a physical body is just a reflection of your own thinking, which is the creative element. Your thinking creates your life as it happens, as it unfolds. And so what I work at is staying up with what is unfolding and put my attention on understanding it. And a part of the way I do that is I keep my attention away from what distracts most people. And I say distraction, that's another talk, and I have talked about these things. So Um, I want to stay focused on the healing for this particular talk because everybody needs to know it. And healing to most people means going to the doctor and getting the pill, or the doctor telling you what you ought to do. Well, if you sidestep your responsibility, you're going to hear more of what your doctor has to say. If you take personal responsibility, you're going to hear more of what your soul is saying. If you listen to that, you can cut down the doctor's visit a bit. That's the way it works. And I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm working at it and have been for a long time. But I have a better understanding now than I did a long time ago of why I'm here. So I'm finally at 81. I'm working at getting down to business. And the business is acknowledging what I'm thinking, what I'm planning, and how I'm causing these plans to be implemented. And it's all relevant. Your idea for this lifetime is supported by your choice of goals with purpose and the activity that brings those things about. And I'm just learning about the activity. Now, some people already know this just instinctively. But I'm getting it. And I'm getting better as I go. And at my age, a lot of people are just resigning themselves to falling apart because they've run out of something to do. And healing is specifically this: correcting erroneous attitudes, making them into productive attitudes, is the process of healing. If you read the words of Jesus more carefully, and may I suggest that you get a copy also of Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted. Dan Condren breaks it all down in language of mind and tells you in picture language what Jesus was saying. And he explains the healing process in language of mind. And so these two books are beyond value. I mean, it's a necessity in my mind. And I've almost on a daily basis, I'll introduce somebody to these books. There's 4 books. I'll just go ahead and there's 4 books. The Permanent Healing, Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted, and then there's the Dream Book, the Dreamer's Dictionary, and then finally my favorite book is the Dreams of the Soul, Yogi Sutras of Patanjali, which lays out the steps to enlightenment. Now, they don't give you the mechanics like you get at the School of Metaphysics. You get the how-to. This Dreams of the Soul, Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, once you read through the whole book, you can begin to get the idea of where you are in that process. And here again, most people have not given any thought to this because they're too busy being distracted into making money, spending money, and having fun. Woo boy. And so they're missing the real stuff. And as I said in another talk, as you relinquish the need to be entertained, simultaneously the universe opens up unlimited entertainment. And it's a lot more interesting than anything you can see in the movies or through drinking and hoopla and all that stuff. This craziness. It keeps you distracted. And distraction is we're on track or we're distracted. So you start do some concentration exercises, and so you can begin to understand what it is that distracts you. Because until then, you don't know. You're just going along with the crowd. And as we're finding out, the blind leading the blind, you're all headed for the pit. That's the downward motion in the Great Pyramid of Egypt. If you want to investigate that a little further. But better than that, go to read Dan and Barbara's book that details the readings they did on how this universe formed and how this world came to be like it is. It's beyond interesting. And it's called Remembering Atlantis. Subtitle is History of the World, Volume 1. And as much as I've stretched my imagination to understand even a little portion of all of this stuff, it blowed my mind. But I know it's real stuff because I know the people that did it. And I know they're not playing. I know them both. And they're not playing. If you want to know what it is not to play, then here's two people you can look at. There's more, like Terence Lamont Bellows. He goes by Terence Lamont. Not as much of a mouthful, I guess. But there are people you can look at that are doing the work, and religion tells you don't need to work. So that's the first thing I had to do is rise above all that. Religion and politics keeps you trapped. Okay, healing. If you once you read Dan Conrad's book on Matthew Interpreted, Universal Language of Mind. In Language of Mind, the pictures rise off the page, and that's what I learned at School of Metaphysics, is not only the structure of mind, but the language of mind. And the inner mind speaks in pictures, conscious mind speaks in words. And words can be confusing until you get the correct picture. And I've done talks about how this distortion is continued and added to, and things are more distorted today than they've ever been. But there's also a greater possibility to become clear. And as I pointed out in other talks, first step is pull head from rectum. That's like the ostrich got the head in the sand, ignoring everything. And ignorance is caused by the process of ignoring. And most people on this planet are in the process of ignoring, as evidenced by who we've elected, the wars, all of the rigmarole, all of the foolishness that's going on. And healing takes me back to healing, because healing is the process, and here we're talking about healing the planet, or healing the people on the planet, is changing the unproductive attitudes into something productive. Go from war to peace. And while I mention peace, I have to mention Terence Lamont is the peace ambassador for the School of Metaphysics, and every morning at 7:30 there's going to be somebody inside the Peace Dome that was built on the College of Metaphysics property in Windyville, Missouri. There's somebody inside that peace dome every morning at 7:30 Central Time, U.S., reading aloud the Universal Peace Covenant that was written by the combination of the teachers and students, the teachers mostly at the School of Metaphysics over a 6-month period in 1997, I believe. And right now, they're right at about 2,000 days consecutive of reading this on Zoom, and they just started doing this on YouTube because Facebook is taking things down after a month and find another way. And I have established a YouTube channel for myself. It's called The Next Step, Winston Cunningham, if you want to check it out. And I started putting all of these on Facebook. We're Valuable Media that Terrence Lamont created for himself outside the school in 2012, I think he said. And he's the one that invited me to speak on it, and I appreciate that because it's opened up some things for me, and I appreciate that. And now I've got another friend that's helping me establish the YouTube channel. He's had a lot of experience because he has his business is the warriorsway.com. He does mental training for rock climbers, but he's in the process of turning or getting things ready to where he can step back and start writing his book. That he's written, his first couple of books were written for the rock climber, but the third book is going to be, and he's been working on this a couple of years already, but he had to set it aside to take care of the business, and he's working in the direction of creating the time for him to finish his book, which takes everything he learned through climbing about the Warrior's Way, and offering that to the general public. And I'm encouraging him, and we have a close relationship that we've developed. Met at the YMCA in a Tai Chi class, and we've developed a relationship, and we do a lot of talking. In fact, I'll see him later on today because he's helping me to learn more about the laptop computer in relation to dealing with uploading my talks onto YouTube. And what does this have to do with healing? Well, everything to me is healing, because the only reason my attention is drawn to a specific area in the body, because there's something that I need to understand, and what's going on here is but a reflection of what's happening here. So, and even though the body heals itself, once I've allowed the destructiveness of a particular unproductive attitude to become physicalized, in other words, ingrained in the body, like you have a dis-ease, it is time now to understand why that's there, and only through understanding why it's there and changing the attitude that caused it, that's the only way a complete healing can occur. It's up to you. See, we were given the choice in everything. Now, think about choice. I've talked about this in other areas. In fact, listen to my talk on who runs the country. U.S. means us, as in we are running the country, and I explained that. So everything is about correcting our attitude. Now, as a whole, I can't correct everyone's attitude, but I'm busy correcting mine. And that's a job. And if you'll get busy correcting yours, that'll be a job too. And that's been written in song many times. Uh, but healing, once you get a copy of Permanent Healing, Permanent Healing, read that. But I'm thinking of Matthew Interpreted Universal Language of Mind. Once you get a copy of that and really dig into it, you'll begin to see how pictures are formed. And as you begin to understand how more constructive pictures are formed, then you can begin the practice of forming more constructive pictures. It is from the pictures that you create in your mind that your subconscious mind hears this as you want it, you got it. So your attitude is that important. And the subconscious mind is not judging you saying this is good, bad, or ugly attitude. It just says you want it, you got it. So in the conscious mind, consciously we've got to decide what it is that we want. What we want. But if we're thinking about what we don't want, guess what we're creating in the physical body? What we don't want. It's a matter of choice. And that's the title of our book. I started in 1994, and it ain't finished yet, but all of this experience is well, even though I'm not sitting down writing, I'm in the process of writing, putting it together here. And at some point it'll come out. Oh, I stayed with it at the beginning until I had 100 or so pages, but I just didn't have it organized. I'd just sit down and write whatever I thought about at the time and kind of put it together. So I've got to go back and get all that organized. But I'm not quite ready to do that, I hope I'll get it done. But see, I don't know yet until I actually do it. And that's another talk I did last week, actually. I don't know yet. But anyway, this talk on healing is just to, if you haven't had a reason to pay attention now, maybe this will help. Now look at me. I'm 81. And how many people do you know that are 81? That are looking to build their life, and this is really the beginning. Most of the people 81 that you know are planning their death. Or they run out of something to do and they're just kind of withering away. And this is a matter of choice. That's one of my talks. Getting old is a choice. It is. And once you listen to somebody talk for a few minutes, you can hear the choice that they have made. So I want to encourage you to make the choice to be healthier than you were by adjusting the attitudes. And if you read closely the words of Jesus, you'll see that by the questioning he did with people he was doing healing on, dig into that a little bit and you begin to see how these adjustments are made. He was teaching this. Healing is actually being. That's another way of putting it. Healing is simply learning to be. Learning to be more of who you really are. And rising above the confusion, the diffusion, the distractions. Rising above that by looking within. Everything you need is already in here. So it's a waste of time looking elsewhere. Healing is available. I'm Winston Cunningham, and I've talked long enough, I guess. I could probably talk a lot longer on this subject, but get the 4 books. That's the beginning. Use the 4 books. That will give you something you haven't had before. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.